This is Our View, the television voice of the Washington Federation of State Employees. The process of collective bargaining for a new contract with the state is now underway, and while that's accomplished across long tables, the employees are very visible in their support for their appointed bargainers.
This is a gathering of employees here at the University of Washington as a kickoff rally for our 2009 contract negotiations. And we've decided to get the members out and show the university that we support stronger contract language and better wages. Health and safety issues are a big issue for all working members here at the university. I think we have issues such as parking. That's gotten to be an enormous drain on our employees. We have issues of just general commute that we need to deal with the price of gasoline going up as it is. And many of our members, due to the cost of housing, live much further away now than they used to.
Lots of people, lots of custodians are having 2 jobs just to support their family. So we need a pay increase.
I think state employees want the things that all Americans want. They want a fair living wage, they want decent health care, they want the opportunity to send their kids to college and to live, the American dream to some extent. We've not seen that in the past. State employees have been so far underpaid compared to the rest of the community. We got some nice catch-up last time. I'm hoping that we'll get a little more catch-up in this round of negotiations, and we just want the same opportunities all Americans have. State employees are very concerned about efficiency of government services. I think the workers are technical experts in how best to get the work done. The volume of work is extreme. It's always understaffed, and we still manage to deliver, and it's because state employees can figure out ways to get the job done in very difficult times. And they're very creative, they're very thoughtful, and where they can save the state money, they do.
While we're pleased that many of the jobs producing the newest Boeing airplanes will be here in Washington, the way in which corporations play one area off against another for various government giveaways is becoming a harmful practice. Dr. Ken Thomas, University of Missouri, has been studying the practice worldwide.
The companies themselves just demand that you give incentives. It's virtually a rent-seeking activity because it's gotten so institutionalized. Government companies always know that they can attract these investments from governments, so they ask for them as a matter of course. The Boeing case is certainly a very interesting one because state and local governments there in Washington State gave $3.2 billion in tax breaks over a 20-year period to make sure Boeing stayed there with its new generation of aircraft. And that's actually been subject of a complaint of the European Union against the United States over those subsidies. That's part of the bigger complaint over subsidies to Boeing, by the U.S. government and also those state and local governments. There was a bidding war for Boeing on multiple occasions. First, they had a bidding war several years previously to that for their headquarters, which was between Washington and I believe Denver and Chicago, Washington State, that is, Seattle. And Chicago won that bidding war. And then there was a bidding war for the actual production facilities for the 787. And that went to Washington State, and there were many states involved in that bidding war. And Washington State and the local governments, like I said, chipped in about $3.2 billion in tax breaks over 20 years. This is like bidding for the services of a baseball player, some other kind of star performer. But large firms, do this routinely, and it's definitely been a problem. The best solution I've seen so far involves international cooperation among governments to try to reduce incentives. And the European Union's efforts on subsidies has had some effect in that direction. It's not perfect by any means, but it's the best model I've seen out there. There's also some voluntary agreements among the Australian states, except for one of them, and to keep each other from poaching already existing investment. And that's been pretty successful, except as like I said, one state doesn't take part. And in Canada, the provinces have had an agreement to not do the same sort of poaching activities, although there's been a few violations of that. Nothing as bad as when they actually put the agreement into place.
A recent conference in Europe featured the future of international investments. The workers were represented at those meetings by the Trade Union Advisory Committee. The big question, according to John Evans, is will these investments benefit the people who will be doing the work that create the profits?
Well, I think the issue for trade unions is that more and more workers are now part of global supply chains. Employed by multinational companies or in the subsidiaries which are working for multinational companies. So for us the issue is not really do we want investment or don't we want investment, but does that investment provide good jobs? Does it actually help wages to be raised? Does it actually improve employment? Or is it being used to try and encourage a race to the bottom? And our message here as trade unions has to be we need effective rules on international capital, rules on investment, and not just a free market free-for-all where companies can actually undercut governments in terms of saying we're only investing in your country if we can do so with lower standards. So for us, getting instruments like the OECD guidelines to be used more effectively, sometimes they're being used now to some effect by unions, is very important. Getting a better regulatory framework. We've seen the crisis in financial markets recently. We need to use and learn the lessons from that. Governments need to learn the lessons and actually put in place decent regulations. So we're not depressed by some of the rhetoric you hear from investment lawyers here about business saying we just have to, all countries simply have to have a good investment climate when they really mean that means no unions or worse working conditions. What we need are good rules, good investment, and try and get a race to the top started and stop the race to the bottom.
In a Paris hospital years ago, a doctor developed the Lamaze method of natural birth. You'd think with that history, the care of mothers and their babies would always be priority one, but you'd be wrong. The priority now is higher production, modeled after the drive-by childbirth of the U.S. The midwives and other hospital employees are telling the French public their health care is heading in the wrong direction.
I work at Les Blutes, which is the hospital that Fernand Lamaze created 50 years ago, and created the Lamaze method of birthing, which is well known in the United States. And our hospital is in danger of losing that personality of being able to take care of women before their birthing process by with prenatal classes. They want to fire 20 people of the personnel. So they want us to do a 600 birth increase while firing 20 people. And so our objective immediately is to ask our director not to do that, and to get him on our side. And once our director is on our side, then he can try and fight with us so that the government will also be on our side. They want the ladies who've had their babies to leave the hospital after 2 or 3 days, where at the moment we keep them for 4 or 5 days. Basically, it's just a question of money versus well-being. And Les Blutes and the crew at Les Blutes has always been against that, and always been for our patients and their well-being. You must know that since Sarkozy came to power, one of the first things he did was to ask for patients to have to pay for some of their medications. which hadn't been done before. Despite the fact that in the United States the health system is in such poor shape, here in France that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to privatize the health system so that the government doesn't have to pay. We're talking about humanity and being able to treat our patients the way patients who are having babies and even ill people should be treated. That means taking time with them, which we do well over our regular schedules. I mean, we all stay and we spend time with our patients, and that's the whole problem. The time spent with patients brings zero money into the hospital, and all they're interested in is getting money into the hospital.
A look at labor history. Here's Ross Reeder.
In 1886, surveyors from the Northern Pacific Railroad found coal deposits on land east of the newest station in Cle Elum. The coal was mined to stoke the mighty steam locomotives, and by December of that year, the first coal was shipped out of the mines to the railroad, according to HistoryLink.org. Roslyn is a coal mining town located in the foothills of the Cascade Mountains, just west of Cle Elum. The town was platted by Logan M. Bullitt, vice president of the Northern Pacific Coal Company, in 1886, when the first commercial coal mining operations were begun. By 1888, Roslyn had grown to over 1,000 in population. But 4 years later, tragedy would strike. On May 10, 1892, 45 miners were killed when an explosion ripped through the number 1 mine, dubbed the worst coal mine disaster in Washington by the Seattle Post-Intelligencer. More than 500 miners found themselves without work after the fire. But this wasn't the last heartache the small mining town would experience. On Sunday, October 2, 1909, an explosion at the Northwest Improvement Company's number 4 mine killed 10 miners when at 12:45 p.m., an explosion coming from either the mine or the shaft sent a column of flames 100 to 400 feet in the air. It's interesting to note, as did a blogger on Vashon Island named Artist Dogboy, that our government did not even start recording the number of mine deaths until 1900. In 1908, there were 2,642 accidental deaths attributed to coal mining in the U.S. The year 1909 remains the year for the highest number of deaths in U.S. coal mining since 1900, according to Artist Dogboy.
This has been Our View, brought to you by the members of the Washington Federation of State Employees. We remind you, when you accept a paycheck for your hard work, you don't give up your rights. Thank you for watching.